What's going on, guys? T2RX6 here, back for another third-party review, and today we're taking a look at the TFC Prometheus Hydrant, otherwise known as Hotspot. Yeah, this guy is a big fire truck. I mean, not like MP10 size big, but he's pretty long. He's not going to scale with an MP10 truck, but he's big. For comparison, there's your Classics Bumblebee, pretty tall. So I would say his overall height is probably taller than an MP10. He's got this fantastic ladder here, which has three sections. The first section, and then the second section, for irritating someone you live with from like 1.5 feet away. It's pretty fun. Yeah, it's a nice ladder, and it's definitely the same ladder that your G1 Hotspot had, where it extended an insane amount. Yeah, the fire truck itself looks pretty good. I'm no expert. If you want the complaints about that, go and check out my friend Skullface's channel. Being a EMS slash fireman. I don't know why that came out so weird. Being an EMS slash fireman, he knows way more about these vehicles than I do. All I can say is, meh, looks like a fire truck to me. So, for more, complaints or comments on that, check out his channel. Before we get on to size comparisons, in the box he came with this piece here. I'm not really sure what they intend this to be in the grand scheme of things. As far as I see, it doesn't hook onto the truck in any place. It just looks like extra bits to make the combiner mode better. So this is the last you're going to see of this until we actually get to the combined mode, after Blade shows up. And you also get this little bag of bits, which once again is to kind of bring out the combined mode. So you won't see these until we actually need them later on. So for quick comparisons here, we do have our streetwise here, and you can see the scale starts getting lost here when you bring a car next to them, and it's just completely obliterated when you bring a motorcycle that is the size of the fire truck next to them. So, it's kind of something you gotta live with, where combiners are involved, because if they're not 3 or 5 or 6 same type vehicles, typically the scale is going to be off. As a side note, you've already probably seen the repro labels on Streetwise here. Just recently added the ones on Groove, and I gotta say, this takes a bike that just looks awful, and honestly, I had no idea what repro labels was going to do to actually make this guy look more interesting, and they have entirely succeeded, so more power to them on that. I can't wait to see what they do for the later sets to kind of match this Autobot City deco. I think that looks awesome. So, yeah, good job, repro labels. And the last thing to bring out before we actually go to the combined mode is you got this, well, it's kind of set up like it's a fire hydrant type thing, like a spray nozzle. They do hide it mostly in the ladder there, the Gatling gun part, so you got that. I still don't really like how that looks, and it's even worse with this little hand thing kind of hanging down. So this never gets displayed for me if he's going to be in his fire truck mode. So here we've got our Hotspot in his robot mode, and aesthetically I can't say I hate him. I think he looks pretty fine. There's some things I'm not a huge fan of, but I think he looks mostly okay. The forearms are huge. That is without a doubt a problem. The shoulder pads don't really bother me as much as I thought, but there is a alternate way you can kind of position them. Once again, thanks to Skullface for pointing that out. I concur. I think it's better. Down here, he does have that ratchet problem where he's either going to be like that, looking weird, or when we one-click it out, he's way too A-framed there for my taste, so you kind of get that really unnatural 1 foot out, essentially posing like the actual combiners tend to do, because their leg stuff is too bulky and the ratchets are too too far spaced together, I should say. Wouldn't be a close spacing. Yeah, got the ladder on the back. It pretty much holds him up from going backwards. He does stand just fine without it though, so don't think you need it if you're not a big fan of how that looks, or you want to put him in a pose that kind of gets in the way. Let's talk about posability now. Head is lovely. Beautiful face sculpt on there. I really don't think that it could have been any better. Good job there. Light piping is pretty nice too. I'm not sure if it's really coming through or not. Let's there we go. A little bit of light pipe in there for you. I like it. Good stuff. Head is just on a swivel. No up or down on that. That's a little disappointing. The arms. The arms are a catastrophe. You can get the in and out by using this joint here, which seems like an interesting choice considering that this is cut to allow this to move, which just kind of feels more natural in the grand scheme of, you know, if you consider this like a giant shoulder pad. But yeah, I don't know which one they actually intend to, and certainly this is not going to hold as much weight as those big ratchets, so I don't know why they made this decision, but we'll alleviate that shortly. Down to the bicep, you do have a swivel elbow that gets pretty well 90 degrees. It's just shy of it. Nothing major there. Wrist is on a swivel, and of course you have the unitary fingers there. I like that personal style, or I like that finger style personally. It suits my taste. Coming down to the lower body here, he does have a chest swivel, which, you know, the ladder tends to knock off pieces of this defensor or skirt piece, I guess you would call it. But yeah, you can swivel at the top part here or the bottom. I think the top part is a more convincing ratchet, just that keep in mind that the ladder often is in the way to actually make this thing, you know, really articulate well. And it's probably a problem with all of this figure, is everything, he's got so much stuff on him, everything is kind of in the way at all times. For legs, he's got, you know, ratcheted in and out, works just fine. A thigh swivel. This is a joint here for the combiner mode, and it almost always will actually get messed with when you're trying to do something else with them. So keep that in mind. I don't really like that, but I understand it has to be there. Knee, you see, there you go, one again. Knee gets pretty well 90, no complaints there. And the foot, nothing on the red piece except for the in and out, but the black part is on a ball joint, so you get plenty of motion out of there if you choose. Now I will say, given this broken articulation here for how your thigh doesn't work, in certain poses it keeps him from being too bow-legged in my opinion. So like, you know, I don't mind that it's there, especially if we were to maybe bring another robot in front of him and kind of hide that, and I think it kind of gives him a little bit more dynamic of a stance than, you know, if we were to just do this. So I just really don't know why we had so few ratchets in here. But we can take his gun here, and we can take this, and you can see we've got a handle for this to become Defensor's gun. I am still not entirely sure how I feel about that one yet. But we also have the smaller gray handle that we can put this up like that. And in the worst way possible, we can take this here, and you kind of have to be careful and feed it through the bottom there, and then kind of adjust things with rotation and everything else to, you know, feed the top handle either through or just at least let them hold it with this hand. You can get things fed in so they work properly like this if you really want to, but the problem I get with that is because of all his big massive bulk, it's not convincingly held. Yeah, I can't figure out a way that I really like this. I guess that's okay. It's the same problem that I had with Warden. I really would rather have a gun like this for the super mode. It's an interesting extra feature, but I'd rather have just a regular gun. So, yeah, keep that in mind. So I talked about the alternate shoulders that Skullface had pointed out in his review. Let's actually get to them. What you end up doing is kind of rotating this like this, and it doesn't lock in here. That is the only shame of this thing, is that it doesn't lock in, but it kind of ends up making this look more like a shoulder pad than it does, I don't know, it just looks more shoulder pad like to me. And by doing that, you actually still get this range of motion there, which I think is good. So you do have this option if you don't mind that it doesn't really peg in anywhere too super well. It's totally an option for you. I think I prefer this for whatever reason. I like the bulk upwards more than I like the bulk out. So yeah, I guess to each their own. If you like this or not, that is totally your call. I realized when I went over articulation, I forgot to point out that he does have a 360 here. It's not ratcheted, which does make this a little bit of a weaker connection. But yeah, it's usable. So let's do some size comparisons on this guy, and I'm keeping the shoulders in the way I prefer to have them. Here is your Classics Bumblebee, and here is your Orion. Here he is next to your Warden, who we already saw. Warden is just slightly smaller than your Masterpiece, so this guy is quite significantly smaller than a Masterpiece like Optimus or Soundwave. And here we've got him next to some Protectobots. Oops, what are you doing here? Next week for you. Yeah, so here we have him next to our two Protectobots that we have. It looks good. I like how these guys look together in robot mode. I still maintain that these are probably my least favorite in terms of, you know, the fun factor of transforming them and messing around with them that TFC's made. But in this mode, I really can't deny that they do look like the Protectobots together, and so far I'm enjoying them. Just, I don't know, not as much as I wish I did. So this is T2RX6. I hope you guys enjoyed the review, and I'll see you next week.